no money, that's an asshole. It wasn't a phase.
Hello, everybody, for the Senior Citizen Podcast. We are here with Andy from Feral Ember. How are you doing today?
Hi. Doing well. Thank
I'm
you
so
for
happy
having
you're
me.
here. Thank you for coming out.
It's my pleasure.
I'm so happy to be back in the Miami studio, first and foremost. Gainesville was rough.
A very beautiful studio, man.
Thank you. Gainesville, not so much. And I should probably stop talking crap about it. But it was just, it would get very hot. And then I had to work the Roadcaster by myself. Not fun. But anyways, tell me a little bit about Feral Ember.
So the story of the band, I had the band in some sort of function or in some form before the pandemic. All that stuff, almost since I was like 19, 20 or something like that. And we recorded one EP. My bass player, who was the teacher of our current bass player, actually, the bass teacher, he got married, members went away. We all did different things, worked on different music. And after COVID, the world changed. We all realized what we wanted to do, how we wanted to go about our lives. And we just started writing music again, got a new lineup together. And now with these guys, we've been playing music and just writing an album.
I love it because it's something that's kind of like grown up with you throughout the years. And
Little
like
bit,
it's always been there.
Yeah, in some sort of form, Sometimes it was, I like to say it was asleep and recently woke up, right?
Right, because I was checking out the Bandcamp too, and it's like, I was shocked to see that it's like, oh, stuff from 2015.
Yeah.
Right, so, and you mentioned to me that you have an EP coming out soon. Maybe it's going to be out around the time of this interview. What can you tell me about it?
That would be very cool, hopefully very soon. The songs in it are inspired by all sorts of things. I mean, a good bit of it is instrumental. There's some singing, a good mix of, some of my favorite bands of like post-rock, origin, shoegaze mixed together. But there's also lots of soundscape and, and even like bits of like Latin music. Like we included, percussion elements and, bongos, things like that, just for texture bits. And so it's inspired by really a lot of what's around us in Miami and the different types of music that we have, but still staying true to what we play.
That you mentioned it's shoegaze. What the hell is shoegaze?
It's a very good question, and you could probably have a whole 45-minute episode.
I need a lecture. Like, I'm so bad with genres.
All right, so if I get this wrong, I'm sure somebody in the internet will come after me for it. But I think, shoegaze started, or I would say was popularized by bands like My Bloody Valentine and Slow Dive around the 90s. And it was almost like an offshoot of alternative rock, or where they were used lots of pedals, and where the music press actually were the ones that coined it. And at the time, from what I hear, wasn't necessarily a term of endearment towards the bands. They were kind of more of like making fun of them, like, oh, these guys, they're not standing around like proper rock stars. They're just staring at their shoes, clicking their pedals. It's just, so it was, but little by little, these bands with more, I guess, psychedelic sounds and experimentation and using pedals and putting the vocals a little bit more in the background, reverb, lots of reverb. And I guess it came from that. So lots of inspiration by the big three bands like My Bloody Valentine, Slow Dive, Ride. A lot of people call those the Holy Trinity.
That's the Holy Trinity of shoegaze?
According to some, yeah.
It's like you have the Holy Trinity of the Scene Kids, and it was like Panic, My Chem, and Fall Out Boy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're like, the three can't exist together at any given moment.
Really?
Like, they all have to take a break at some point.
I would say that's the Holy Trinity, yeah.
I like that. It's,
so
usually it's a good intro to that
some
kind
people,
of music.
Yeah.
All right. It's funny. It's like, yeah, I am gazing at my shoes, and that's the name of the genre.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. So
you gotta click a lot of pedals.
I feel like I would get so, I don't know, like so flustered, so confused with so many pedals, but I am not a musician by any means.
It's less than it, like the memes make it seem like it's more than that, than what it actually is, but,
On social media, are you like, because of how it's like catered to, everybody's tastes, are you on like shoegaze Instagram or shoegaze TikTok?
Social media is something that, I'm sort of new. For a long time, I'll go months without posting. Sometimes I do, but I like a lot of different types of music, and all of us in the band like lots of different types of music. So, it's not necessarily like we're like strictly a shoegaze band or like strictly,
Right.
but we just draw a lot of inspiration from that.
And the memes must be good.
The memes are good.
I like that you mentioned that you had percussion sounds in the new EP coming up. It reminded me of my niece plays in a bunch of like orchestras and stuff. She plays violin and piano. So one of the orchestras they have for like the in-house artist, this guy named Nestor Torres, who's crazy on the flute, but he's Puerto Rican. And there was one show that was like, okay, all that like traditional classical out the window, and he was playing stuff you could like dance to and everything. Cool. It was so much fun. But yeah, I love the mixing of genres. It's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's we're all into that, especially the current lineup. The rest of my band, which couldn't be here, so shout out to them, David and Lauren. We all play different instruments. They play synths and guitar, and so we're not just limited to guitar, bass, and drums. Like we all play different instruments. So once we record the core stuff, we were able to experiment and almost be film composers in a way, right? And build the atmosphere around the record and all of that. So it all comes from mixing genres, like what you were saying. Right.
How does that work when you play live? Like, since there's so many instruments involved and so many sounds.
I mean, sometimes a lot of instruments are used as like supporting cast members,
Ouch.
Yeah. No, I mean, just there's like little shaker instruments, little things that,
You need a triangle player?
Yeah, exactly. Where like if we had a little triangle part, we can sample it. So like old school 90s hip hop, I bring a sampler on stage. So I'm sampling stuff live, in between songs and during the songs and stuff.
Exciting. What's your favorite thing about playing live? Like,
that's a really good question. My favorite thing, honestly, almost everything. Every time we play live, like it's all I look forward to, and we're really, really excited. And playing live it's everything. From the moment that my favorite thing is the jolt from when you switch off and you just kind of snap back into it, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like an out-of-body experience. Like you play the first few notes and you just snap into it, and then the rest you're like come back into it 30 minutes later, like, oh wow, I hope that was good.
You were basically like watching yourself from the crowd at that point, like
right.
Out of body.
Sometimes it happens so fast, and also like afterwards, just getting to talk to people and seeing what they kind of got out of it. Because since there's a lot of instrumental elements to the music, I feel like people can just go to their own space and go to their own place, and sometimes where they go in their mind is different, and that's really cool when people reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, thank you for." Whatever you mentioned. Sometimes I talk a little bit in between the songs and give them like a little hint of what the song might be about. And sometimes just what they come back to me with, or like, hey, that reminded me of this, or that reminded me of an emotional or influential time in my life. Or that's the moments that you like stick with. Like I still remember conversations that I had with strangers after a set.
I'm sure that's what you do it for, like at the end of the day, it's music to make people feel.
Yeah, it's definitely to make people feel and think stuff. And for me, it's like I was that kid going to the show with like just like $5 in my pocket, and like you got to take 2 buses home, or like you have to catch a ride with a friend or whatever. So it was like that show was like maybe all I was looking forward to.
And nothing would beat that car ride. If you were riding with friends, nothing would beat that car ride there and back.
Yeah, absolutely. But or sometimes you would ride with like maybe not even friends, just a friend of a friend or somebody that was just going to the show. So those are the moments like when I get to meet people that like I was looking forward to like just a show, see some live music, or people that weren't even expecting it.
Right.
That were just like I was just walking by and I heard a sound that pulled me in. That's cool.
That's your best marketing at the end of the day too.
Right. Yeah.
To pull people in. Well, you obviously have been doing, music for a very long time. How did you get into it? What did you start playing? Like, were you one of those kids that picked up, the guitar at 3 and it was like, this is my calling, or what?
No, not at all. I think I started when I was in middle school. I started on bass, but I wanted to play in bands. Like at the time, I mean, my music style and taste have changed. as the rest of my band members, you know.
And the rest
We're
of the
all
world.
yeah, right, exactly. But we're all into very different things. But especially then, there was something about like just people making sound that I was like, wow, that's cool. So I even though I wasn't like a big fan of like school per se, or like, but I would just sign up for every music class that I could, regardless of what it was, because I just wanted to be like thrown around it. And I started playing bass guitar and like trying to be in bands with friends and stuff like that. Some of those friends are still in bands in the scene now, and
Yeah, everybody just
know,
kind of switches around.
some
I've
of them
noticed.
are, you know, real estate agents somewhere, right?
A real
But-
estate agent, and then at night they're, you know, playing the local show too.
That would be cool. I hope so.
What kind of bands were you into around that time? So the show is about nostalgia. It's about going to like, oh God, I used to listen to that, but it made up your
no,
childhood,
I'm into it.
you know?
I'm into it. I'm into it. Some of those bands have released records coming back again, you know. So that's cool. Around that time, especially like, you know, high school time, I was listening to, and probably my high school band sounded a lot like my influence too, right? I was listening to a lot of Alex on Fire, which they put out a new record recently. Census Fail, you know, going to the Warped Tour, right? Ironing my hair, all that stuff. But probably the band that was the like tipping point to get me into more experimental stuff and get me into Radiohead and get me into, you know, things of that nature, like Godspeed You Black Emperor, was when I started listening to Thrice. They had an album called The Alchemy Index, and where it was almost like 4 EPs. Each EP was like an element, you know, and each element had their own genre of music, if you will. Like
Right.
water was more ambient music, fire was heavy with screaming and heavy distorted guitars, and that was like, oh wow, you could do this. Like you could just do anything. Like I you know, for me that was really, and many bands have experimented with genre before that, but you know, when you're a teenager, like whatever grabs you first, right? So for me, I was like, wow, you could do this. Like you could just play anything. You could make music with anything, and then that opened up my mind to start listening to stuff that was just more outside of my comfort zone. So
Right.
yeah.
Not the same.
That was the
3
bridge
playlists.
from like the Warped Tour to the more obscure.
Yeah, like other
influences.
stuff exists.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny because from my little Warped Tour box, but bands like that, like you would mention like Radiohead, and I'd be like, oh, they're so cool, they can listen to that. Because to me, it was like, if it wasn't catchy or like commercially enough for me, like it's like I wasn't listening to it.
Yeah.
And everybody has their different tastes. What you mentioned about the 4 EPs, that's really cool because I love it when bands or artists put out a project with like so much thought beforehand. Like they're probably sitting there thinking like, okay, this song and in this category, and there's so much pre-planning to go into it. A Latin artist actually did that recently. I don't know if you know the artist Mike Bahia.
No, I'm not familiar.
Well, if you listen to Spanish music, he did 3 albums, and it's Navegando Contento Contigo.
I dig
So it's a
it.
trilogy. Yeah, it was very cute about like different stages of his life and stuff. But that's amazing. Do you think you would ever plan something like that, like so far in advance, to hopefully inspire somebody else?
I mean, all the records they all have, you know, their own little concepts, right? And like our first EP they all have their own little loose stories wrapping up around them. So in a way it is like that, but it's never like an out thing of like putting out like, oh, we're going to plan this out in advance, you know? It's just always like, it's like whenever you're working on art, whatever you're experiencing in life factors one way or another into it, you know, especially when I started writing lyrics and putting words to the music, because for a while it was just instrumental, and I wanted to keep it that way. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just sing gibberish. And then I started writing the words, and then little by little I'm like, whoa, this is not gibberish. And, you know, the words started, I'm like, oh, this is about a lot of stuff that I didn't think it was about, right? So
it didn't end up being like those what are they called? The Milk and Honey poems, the Rupi Kapoor, is it?
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh,
at
it's
all.
like when
Sorry.
people make so much fun of it. It's like that blank like white page, and they write like short little poems, but they're just so cheesy, so bad. I have to look it up. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but it's definitely an internet meme.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, but it was like a cryptic version of that. So if the podcast is about going back to nostalgia and thinking stuff, it was kind of like that.
Right.
Like it was like, oh, I'm gonna sing gibberish and see if I can shape it into meaningful things. And turns out it was more like, oh wow, I'm singing meaningful things that I didn't even know were, in the back of my mind, kind of thing, right?
You like unlock the subconscious
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
What were those songs about? Like what areas of your life? Like did it help you in a way?
Yeah.
Because I think we were all depressed as teenagers, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was, especially these songs, the first EP was all instrumental, but especially these songs, the ones, I mean, even the ones that don't have lyrics to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have, a lot of thought put behind it, and a lot of thought process, and a lot of, I think feeling that comes off when you hear it or when you see us play it live, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it just had to do with just how we're processing life and how you want to go about it, and taking advantage of just the best moments, as cheesy as it may sound.
So it's more of happy moments, really.
Right, or about overcoming sad ones, right? There's a song called Rituals Then, Rituals Now, and it was rendering a sad moment, and it was almost served as like it's almost like that calling of like, all right, time to splash some water on your face and like get back up, and like let's just time to just feel better and do things, and like that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So even though there's no words to it, but it was a really important thing. So not necessarily that they're happy songs, but they're definitely trying to be uplifting in some way, right?
Right. Okay. It's
Hopefully
cool because
that
I
makes
can.
sense.
No, it does, and I can imagine something like that, like being part of a movie score, like
Right.
the characters getting up, and it's like, okay, time to get ready and splash the water on the face.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's great that you mentioned a movie score, because that's what a lot of people would say when they come up to us, like, hey, that sounds like it could be in movies, like the music. So when we write it and when we all sit about it, it's all, I mean, I'm sure we all have different things that the song brings up in our head. So it is a movie score. It's just for a movie that's not out yet, right?
Right, and you guys could probably make it, like,
right.
Just
well, but
the
it's
world's
also
your oyster.
like, yeah, exactly. That would be great if we had the budget to make films too.
No, even if you had just like the visuals going along with the songs, like doesn't have to be super high.
Oh,
budget.
that's coming. That's coming for sure. Actually,
Look
spoiler
at
alert.
Hit the
Look
nail
at
on the
that.
head.
But definitely, I mean, it's kind of like, it's like your own movie. Everybody has their own little movie when they see it. So that's some of the best parts of it.
It's giving me like war flashbacks to
To war.
to a not a great time in my life that I would listen to, or do you listen to Law Dispute?
Yes, I'm very familiar with that.
Right. Yeah. So I would go to the gym. That's not workout music. Like
Yeah.
I listen to it now. I'm like, who the frick works out to Law Dispute?
That's good. I like it.
No, like running on the treadmill.
I would work out to that dispute. Yeah.
No.
Especially that record Wildlife.
Dude, 10-year anniversary of Wildlife. Does that make you feel old?
10 years. Wow.
Yeah, they celebrated that
Yeah.
last year with a tour.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful that, cool records like that get to be celebrated.
Yeah, a lot of records that, I mean, I don't know about you, but a lot of records that I kind of really loved a while ago. It's like, 10-year anniversary tour. And it makes you greedy because now I'm sitting here like, why doesn't this one get like an anniversary tour? I need, Selfish Machines and Collide with the Sky and Brand New Eyes by Paramore to get all these, anniversary tours.
Well, they're playing, big stages. So
I went.
I saw. Yeah,
I went.
I saw.
Tell me about Warped Tour, your Warped Tour days. What was that like for you? Any crazy stories?
Yeah, tons of crazy stories.
Pick
Post Warped Tour days, tons of crazy stories. There's always crazy stories. But I mean, I went to a couple. It wasn't really like that was like what I would wear on my sleeve. Like I went to a couple where I saw some of my favorites. Like I mentioned Thrice, Alex on Fire, Since Feral, saw those guys play there, and that was cool. So it was definitely an opportunity, for kids that didn't grow up with a lot of money, such as myself, to like, all right, if I can save up for this one thing, I can maybe see a handful of bands, and I got to go to that with friends that are not around anymore. So it's
wow.
cool. Yeah, lots of cool memories from that.
Like not around.
Yeah, like friends that passed away.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
At least you have those memories, you know.
Most definitely. It's something I look back on with very positive. And I think of that. I think of like the friends that I'm like, oh man, I wish I could bring this guy out to one of these shows, you know, that we're playing now. So yeah, definitely I look back at all those times with like just good times and just being around music. Anytime you're around music, whether it's a good band or a bad band, because there's definitely both of that there. It's always inspiring. Like it's always like, you know, maybe you're like, man, I don't love this, but it makes me want to get up and play or, you know, whatever. But when you get to be around a really cool band that you like and you just catch them for a glimpse, like, you know, I remember the moment when I saw some of my favorites and I was like, wow, that's that guy. I saw that guy on a poor quality YouTube video at home and now he's here screaming in my face. It's the best.
Or how many bands that we've seen like play a stage like Revolution and then all of a sudden they're, you know, at the FLA arena or something like that and you're like, dude, I'm so proud of you.
Absolutely.
From a financial standpoint, Warped Tour was the best thing ever because, dude, it was like $30 and you got to see so many bands. I will die on that hill. Like, there's no reason for concerts to be so expensive.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've seen like all of my favorite bands on like the concerts that I'm like, wow, I could just, that was the best time. I have it, you know, lives rent free in my head, right?
Yeah.
Those I've seen, like I don't think I've paid more like than like $50 to see like some of my favorite bands, you know.
No, in some local shows, like I obviously because of the podcast, I've been paying attention to the local scene now, because I used to, you know, go to shows like 10 years ago or whatever, and it's before Spotify was that big and
Elder
people had
emo.
their music.
Exactly.
My friend got me this shirt for my birthday.
That's what's up.
Yeah, Elder emo, but an Elder Scene kid too.
That's what's up. Yeah.
I was covered in the candy bracelets, but anyways, you know a band is good when you can love their stuff live. Like if I don't know your music and I'm listening to you live and I'm having a good time, that's like top tier.
One of my favorite live bands, Zeta.
I've been trying to get them on. Zeta, hey.
Please, yeah.
Please, they're traveling, they're touring.
Absolutely.
It's been 20 years of Zeta, and I've been dying to get them on because I'm Venezuelan. So I was like,
that's amazing.
I need my people out here.
One of my favorites.
Do you know them personally?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, yeah.
Call them over. I'm kidding. No.
Allow me. Let me see.
No, they're very dope. They're very dope. I like their vibe. I like their music. My brother was the one that told me about them, and I was like, I need these guys here.
I just love to see them play anytime they're in town.
Are they magical to see live?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, it's not like, you know, like we hang out like we're best friends from back in the day. You know, like some of the members are friends of mine, and you know, and I've had the opportunity to meet them briefly, you know, after shows and just be like, wow, you guys are amazing. But it's one of those things. Like anytime I get to go see it, I bring out my girlfriend, I bring out my friends, because it's a really awesome experience just to see live.
I can't wait to see them. They're hopefully going to play in Miami again soon.
I hope so. I'll be there for sure.
Well, I completely, wow. I went out of my screenshot. So I don't know if you've seen that we have discussions about Reddit posts occasionally because people like to ask for unsolicited advice on the internet.
All right.
So we go on the relationship advice Reddit, and now we're going to give our opinion.
Oh, cool. So I'm going to...
Yeah, you're going to be a guru right now.
I'm going to tell somebody what to do with their life. That's fun.
Right.
Let's do it.
Why are they asking strangers on the internet? That's the real question.
That's how you know you're going to get a good answer. Strangers on the internet, they know best.
Right. So it says, my ex wants to get back together, but I, 25 male, think the trust was broken beyond what may be fixable. I'm going to try and make this as uncomplicated as possible. My girlfriend and I were on the rocks. Not toxic, just not a crazy relationship. We were just on the rocks and constantly fighting, and our timing was off because we were both in a transition period with our jobs, and we decided to end things for the moment to get our head straight. A week later, we start talking again. Not getting back together, but just started being more friendly and more understanding and start talking about a serious future and how we should handle things if they get like that again, where we were previously having trouble. I jokingly asked her, "You been dating?" And she said, "Yes, I've been talking to a guy, but it's whatever, not serious, just needed attention." Now in the moment I brushed it off, back of my head. It seemed too quick. Now this guy comes into the picture, the week we break things off, Then The next time we got together, we sat down and I got more serious about this guy, and eventually 2 and 2 came together, and she was in communication with him before we officially decided to end things. Ouch. She claims we were doing bad, so it shouldn't matter anyway, but to me, even though we were in a fade, it's wrong. What do we think? They seriously need help, they say.
I mean, that just sounds like the whole plot of
a movie.
Of a soap opera, una novela,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the whole thing. What's the question?
we have to
What
give-
is he even asking?
We have to give the characters novela names now that we've mentioned that. So, guy's name should be something like
Mauricio de la Rosa.
It's always something like de la Rosa, right? Mauricio de la Rosa. The girl's name?
Isabela Villalobos.
You watched a lot of novelas, haven't you?
First thing
Okay,
that came
so-
to mind.
Mauricio over here is upset that Isabela was talking to somebody before they broke up.
You said you dated. You said it was on the rocks. Move on.
Ooh. So you just jump ship as soon as things are on the rocks?
I mean, he said that like they're on the rocks. They spoke again. He's like, just make it easy. Move on. You know, you said that you were friendly when you spoke again. Stay friendly. Just wish them well on their new journey. Go on a new journey yourself.
Yeah.
Splash water on your face. Splash water on your face. You put on our song Rachel's Then,
Right.
and then you move on. It's
Right,
the perfect
right.
song for that.
You need them like with an old school like little CD player with the headphones, the big chunky headphones, and
Absolutely.
just, you know, moving past the breakup. Do you
Yeah.
recommend Feral Ember for breakups?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
For transitional periods in your life, when you just want to like, you know, go off on a new journey.
Okay.
Definitely recommend it.
Mauricio de la Rosa, I need you to move on.
Move on, man. You already said it was bad. Move on. You know this. You don't need a stranger on the internet. You know this.
I love that in the, like, there was no redeeming qualities, because usually when people go into these kinds of posts, they'll be like, she's great and I love her. Like, it was not mentioned once. So I think they can move on.
I thought it was going to be something way less serious. Like, what
Nope.
can I make? What can I make for dinner for my dates or something like this? Was so
No.
serious.
If you
dude.
go on relationship advice Reddit, people are here like, my husband of 15 years just cheated on me. What do I do? And it's like, bitch, what are you supposed to do?
Oof. That's rough.
That's the mood.
Next podcast episode, we fix your marriage.
Right. They were here to give unsolicited advice to people who
100%.
already know. When people make these posts, they already know what they need to do. That's the sad part. But for some reason, they just have to put it out there for our
100%.
entertainment.
Yeah.
But anyways, if there's anything you want to plug, it's your shameless plug moment. Let people know what's going on.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, shameless plug.
Feral Ember. At Feral Ember on Instagram. We're gonna be releasing an EP soon.
If it's not already released.
Maybe
keep you
by the
posted.
time you hear this, it just came out. But check it out, listen to it, come out to a show. We're playing July 28th with Shiva at Bar Nancy, with Shiva, Beach Mirage, Viper. So that's I'm really excited for that show. It's a dope lineup. Come out to Bar Nancy, July 28th. And we got, I think, what's our June? This might not come out by then.
It's
But,
all right. We
yeah,
post flyers every week.
July 28th. Come out to Bar Nancy. See us play with our homies.
Very exciting. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Andy.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Solicited advice for the novela names, for giving us the backstory. And I hope everybody subscribes to the Senior Citizen Podcast. I will check you out next time.
Thank you for having me. Peace.